The last thing I wanted on a Mother's Day Sunday, after pulling a brutal morning shift and running on fumes, was to be voluntold into some senior center speed dating event, especially when I was just trying to deliver 3 dozen lukewarm pizzas. I'm Kai, by the way, and trust me that Sunday was already kicking my ass. We were short-staffed, swamped, and then right when I thought I could finally start thinking about unwinding, a late call came in for a massive order. A senior center. Great. Not exactly my scene, you know. I'm not exactly a kids and old folks kinda guy on the best of days, let alone when I'm about ready to collapse. So there I am, navigating a maze of hallways, the smell of institutional linoleum filling my nostrils. I finally pushed through a set of double doors and bam, chaos. Not exactly a sedate senior tea party. This was a full-blown mother and child shindig. Kids were doing that high-pitched, excited squealing thing, tearing around tables laden with untouched crudités while their moms tried to wrangle them. I just wanted to get these pizzas dropped, get my tip, and get out. My patience was thinner than a discount paper napkin. I finally reached the designated table, precariously stacking the boxes, when a woman with a bright pink organizer sash on her sweater practically materialized beside me. She had one of those overly enthusiastic smiles that makes you nervous. "Oh Kai, you're here, perfect timing," she chirped, linking her arm through mine before I could even process what was happening. We were just about to start the pairings. My brain just stalled. Pairings? What the hell was she talking about? Ma'am, I think there's a misunderstanding. I'm just the pizza guy." I gestured weakly at the mountain of pepperoni and cheese. She just laughed, a warm, booming sound that somehow managed to be both comforting and utterly dismissive of my protests. "Oh, you, always so humble. Come on, let's find Bonnie. She's been so excited to meet you." My mind was racing. Bonnie meet me? This was clearly some kind of mix-up. I tried again, a little more firmly this time. "No, seriously, I deliver for Pizza Paradise. This is a delivery. I don't work here. I'm not a volunteer." But she wasn't listening. She was already dragging me deeper into the room, past laughing children and smiling women. Nonsense. "We got your name right here on the list," she insisted, then spotted an elderly woman with silver hair pulled into a neat bun sitting alone at a table, a deck of cards clutched in her hand. "Ah, there's Margaret. Margaret, darling, here's Kai." Margaret, a sweet-looking woman with kind eyes, looked up and smiled. "Oh, Kai, so glad you made it. Bonnie is just over there looking forward to meeting you." My jaw must have been hanging open. It was a conspiracy. Everyone here thought I was some kind of prearranged companion. I finally managed to blurt out, "No, wait, I'm really just the pizza delivery guy." "I delivered these." I pointed frantically at the pizzas, which by now were probably cooling rapidly. The organizer, still beaming, patted my arm. "Yes, dear, we know, but you're also Kai, Bonnie's special companion for the day. It's a random pairing, sweetie. You don't have to have everything in common, just enjoy the company." She gave me a gentle but firm push towards the elderly woman, then quickly bustled off to wrangle a small child who was attempting to scale a decorative palm tree. I stood there feeling utterly helpless, a pizza box still balanced precariously in my hand. This wasn't an r/I don't work here lady moment where someone was yelling at me for a refund. It was more like an r/don't volunteer here but now I have to moment. I swallowed my annoyance and decided fine. Just play along for a few minutes, then make a graceful exit. How bad could it be? I approached the table where Bonnie sat. She was a tiny woman, probably in her late 80s, with bright, curious eyes and a smile that crinkled the corners of them. "Hello, Bonnie," I said, my voice a little stiff. "I'm Kai." She held out a delicate hand. "It's so lovely to meet you, dear. Margaret told me you're quite the card shark." I blinked. Well, I dabbles." Turns out, the entire event was for senior women living in the homes who didn't have children of their own, so volunteers were paired with them for Mother's Day. It was actually a really sweet idea, if only I hadn't accidentally become part of it. For the next hour, I played Go Fish with Bonnie. She told me stories about growing up in the city, about her late husband, about the time she won a local baking contest with a lemon meringue pie. And here's the thing, despite my initial grumpiness, despite my internal screaming about wanting to go home, I actually enjoyed it. Bonnie was hilarious. She'd slyly borrow cards from my pile when I wasn't looking, then pretend innocence. She even bragged to another resident about how I'd won Employee of the Week at my pizza place. Which, sidebar, I actually had that month, but how did she know that? Then out of nowhere, as I mentioned my landlord issues, her eyes sharpened. "Oh honey, don't you worry. I know a few things about property law from my days on the resident council. You let me write a letter for you." They won't know what hit 'em, she winked. I found myself actually laughing. This woman, who I'd been so annoyed to be paired with, was actually pretty incredible. We ended up playing another round of cards, then watching a game show on the big screen, during which she promptly nodded off, a gentle snore escaping her lips. I just sat there watching her, a strange warmth spreading through me. When the organizer finally came by to announce the end of the event, Bonnie stirred awake with a gasp. "Oh, Kai, it was such a pleasure," she said, squeezing my hand. "You too, Bonnie," I replied, and surprisingly I meant it. As I gathered my now empty pizza boxes, I pulled out a coupon from my pocket, a 2-for-1 large pizza deal. I carefully placed it on her table. "For you, Bonnie. So you can get that lemon meringue pie or pizza." Walking out, the sun felt a little less harsh, the air a little lighter. I was still tired, yeah, but that familiar knot of frustration had eased. I realized I hadn't been voluntold into anything. I'd accidentally stumbled into something pretty special. And maybe, just maybe, being open to new experiences, even the ones you initially dread, isn't so bad after all. Who knows, maybe next Mother's Day I'll actually volunteer.
Liking the vibe so far? Hit that subscribe button and stick around, the next story's even better.
The high-pitched wail wasn't a fire alarm, but it certainly set off alarms in my head. I was just trying to grab some milk. Navigating the bustling aisles of our local upmarket supermarket, the kind of place where a 6-year-old Ford like mine feels less like a car and more like a historical exhibit next to the endless stream of shiny new Teslas. See, I'm not exactly posh in this swanky North England borough. I'm the bloke driving the old Ford, appreciating the artisan bread but not paying triple for it. But that sound, it was a young man, probably early 20s, his face contorted with distress, clinging to his carer's arm near the entrance. He had a special needs trolley, the kind designed for extra stability and support, and his shoulders were hunched, shaking with barely suppressed sobs. I knew them. I've got a soft spot for the special school down the road. They bring their students here regularly to practice independence, to navigate the world. And honestly, it's a lovely idea. The carer, bless her, was trying to explain to the clearly upset young man why some entitled git in a brand new Tesla had decided the disabled bay was their personal VIP parking. "It's not right, John," her voice was a strained whisper. "But we can't let it upset us too much. Some people just don't think." Just then, a woman with perfectly coiffed blonde hair, designer sunglasses perched on her head despite being indoors, swept past us. She must have heard the tail end of the carer's sentence because she suddenly stopped, pivoting on her expensive heels. Her eyes, narrowed to slits, went from the student's distress to the carer, then landed on me for a split second before dismissing me entirely. "Excuse me," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Are you talking about my car?" The carer, God bless her patience, tried to de-escalate. "Ma'am, it's just that this spot is reserved for disabled shoppers, and young John here needs it for his wheelchair access. He's quite distressed because he can't get his trolley out properly." She gestured vaguely towards the student, who was now whimpering louder, clearly terrified by the sudden aggression directed their way. And that's when Karen, because of course her name was Karen, truly unleashed, her perfectly made-up face contorted, a flush rising in her neck. "Oh, boo-hoo, he needs it. I need it too. I pay my taxes. I work hard for my money. I've earned the right to park wherever I damn well please." Her voice was rising, echoing off the high ceilings of the produce section, attracting stares. She jabbed a finger not at the carer but practically in the student's face. "And you two morons need to get a life. Stop whining and stop making excuses." That was it. My blood just boiled over. Seeing her yell at a vulnerable young man who was already overwhelmed, who was just trying to learn to navigate the world. That was a step too far, even for this self-proclaimed, not-so-posh chap who usually just keeps his head down. I stepped forward, putting myself between Karen and the student. "Excuse me," I said, trying to keep my voice even, "but there's absolutely no need to speak to them like that. This is a disabled bay, plain and simple. What you're doing is pretty classless, actually." Karen blinked, momentarily taken aback by my sudden appearance. "Classless," she scoffed, recovering quickly. "Oh, and you're the arbiter of class, are you, with your Ford?" She gave my old car, visible through the supermarket doors, a withering glance. I'm not the one crying like a baby because someone parked their expensive car where they want. She turned back to the carer and the whimpering student, her eyes blazing. Get over yourselves. With that, she spun on her heel and stormed out of the supermarket, leaving a palpable silence in her wake. The student was still crying, but the carer was quickly trying to reassure him, rubbing his back. It's okay, John, it's okay. She's gone. I stayed for a moment, making sure they were all right, offering a quiet, I'm really sorry that happened. The carer just nodded, a weary gratitude in her eyes. It wasn't long, maybe 10 minutes, before I saw security guards out in the car park, looking at Karen's gleaming Tesla. A few minutes after that, a tow truck arrived. I overheard one of the guards muttering to another one of them. Should be allowed to park there, all right, but only if they open their mouth. I couldn't have agreed more. The satisfaction was real. As I finally made my way out, my old Ford felt a little less like a relic and a little more like a humble chariot of justice. It's always disappointing when someone acts like that, especially when it's someone who, by virtue of their apparent status, might be seen as a role model. But hey, at least the student and the carer got some support from me. And I hope they learned that not everyone in the world is as selfish and rude as Karen. Maybe next time, Karen will think twice before parking in a disabled spot and yelling at innocent people, or maybe she won't. But at least her car won't be there.
My fiancé's mom, bless her heart, turned a shade of fuchsia I didn't even know existed that night. She apologized so profusely for a solid 2 minutes that I genuinely thought I was the one who'd committed some cardinal sin. All because I was 15 minutes late to dinner with her. Yeah, guys, that's how my first meeting with my future in-laws went down. Let me tell you, it was a moment. So Mark, that's my fiancé, and I had been together since uni and we were finally getting to meet his folks. It was a huge deal for me, first impressions, you know. I'd even pulled out my lucky dark red dress, feeling pretty confident and ready to charm the socks off them. Mark kept telling me not to worry, that his parents were super chill. Everything was going perfectly until my bus decided to stage its own dramatic breakdown halfway across town. I called Mark frantic, telling him I was gonna be a bit late, maybe 15 minutes tops. He was his usual reassuring self, don't sweat it, babe. They totally understand. Oh, if only I'd known exactly what understanding looked like in his mother's world. My phone died shortly after, leaving me stranded and increasingly flustered. I finally burst into the fancy restaurant, totally disheveled but trying to play it cool. There they were, Mark looking handsome and trying to give me a subtle, encouraging nod, his dad with a noticeable twinkle in his eye. And then there was his mom, Mrs. Henderson. She was already bright red when I got there, and it only intensified as I stammered out my apologies. Oh no, dear, no, you mustn't, she practically wailed, gesturing wildly at the empty seat. We're just so terribly sorry for your inconvenience. The bus system here is simply dreadful. Mark, why didn't you insist on picking Aubrey up? She was practically vibrating with mortification, apologizing for me being late, for the bus, for the entire concept of public transport inconvenience. It was like she was personally responsible for every poorly timed municipal service in the tri-state area. Mark's dad, bless his heart, just couldn't contain himself and ended up having a full-blown fit of the giggles, which naturally made me laugh along too. Mark and I, of course, thought it was hilariously awkward. It became an instant inside joke between us. We'd bring it up, imitating his mom's frantic apologies and crack up, but Mrs. Henderson, not so much. A few days later, Mark casually mentioned it to her again, joking about how red she got. Her smile froze. Mark, darling, she said, her voice tight, I'd really appreciate it if we didn't belabor that point, especially not at the wedding. Well, now it was a challenge. Mark and I were a bit mischievous. So we did what any self-respecting couple would do. We recorded a silly little reenactment of the whole bus breakdown and apology saga. Just for our friends, you know, it was a hit. Our best man, Dave, thought it was so good he actually threatened to incorporate it into his wedding speech. That was when even we started sweating a little. We spent a good hour talking him down from that ledge, reminding him of Mrs. Henderson's very specific, very stern request. We didn't want to cause a proper family feud after all. In the end, we decided to be a tiny bit more considerate. We recorded another video, a much gentler, more celebratory one about how we overcame initial transportation challenges to meet our wonderful future in-laws. We shared that one with family. It was a safer bet and honestly still pretty hilarious. It totally broke the ice, and Mrs. Henderson even managed a small, slightly forced smile when she saw it. I think deep down she gets that we love her even if we poke a little fun. So yeah, sometimes life throws you a broken bus and a mortified future mother-in-law. Best thing you can do, laugh, but maybe pick your battles. Or at least pick your video content. Aubrey out.
Here's another one I think you'll really enjoy.